Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Grosse Ile Township Public Services Commission meeting for August 9th. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call the roll. Posias? Riley? Kent? Miles? Benaz? Costick here. And we have a full quorum tonight. The next motion in order would be to approve the agenda for the August 9th meeting. Any suggestions, or may I have a motion?
So moved. I'll second.
Moved and supported that the agenda for the August 9th meeting be approved as distributed. Any discussion? If not, all in favor? Say aye. Aye. Opposed? Agenda is approved. Next, we have lengthy minutes from the July 12th meeting where we had a public information discussion, and we had several people in the audience. Some 25 people spoke on the condition of the concerns over roads on Grosse Ile and their condition. And I want to, before we entertain any suggestion changes or whatnot, I want to compliment Lorinda Benetou for the wonderful job in preparing these lengthy minutes. So people, I hope, have had a chance to review them. Are there any comments, additions, corrections? If not, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Move to approve. Second.
Moved and supported that the minutes be approved of our July 12th public hearing, or our meeting, public information meeting. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes are approved. Next, you have vouchers, item number 6 on the agenda, approval of bills. You have vouchers that you've had a chance to look at, pages 13 through 20, vouchers 13,003 to 13,009. Are there any questions? If not, I'd appreciate a motion to approve the vouchers.
Move to approve. Second.
Moved and supported that the vouchers as noted be approved as distributed. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The vouchers are approved. Next, we have a statement of revenues and expenses for July or through July of this year for our water and sewer systems and for refuse. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, we will file and receive the statement of revenues and expenses. Next, we have approval of the Treasurer's report for July. And that's page 31 of our report. Any comments? I have two comments as chair. First, on the front page, page 31. If we go back 3 or 4 years, we were carrying a fund balance in the treasurer that's accumulated funds of water, sewer, refuse, drainage, and so forth, in the vicinity of $2 to $3 million. Of course, we know we've spent that money with respect to the road improvement program and our sewer program. So we're carrying a beginning balance of $499,000. I assume, Ted, Mr. Treasurer, that that'll probably go up once the bonds are sold?
Yes, we went out to the bond this week. That should end.
Okay.
We didn't go out for the capital improvement bonds. We just went out for the payback bonds for the money we borrowed from the sewage treatment plant and the DPS. That bond should be in shortly, and all of that money goes to the DPS department and the sewage treatment plant.
That's a $3 million bond?
Yes.
The other thing is again, on page 32, I want to call everyone's attention to the fact that now our balance in our road revenues is $296,000. So we've been working on, money's been budgeted and transferred over to support our activities for this summer, which we've spent money on both roadside mowing and dust control. And so that balance is now just slightly below $300,000. And then later on the agenda, and I think this is relevant, Barry, so you might want to keep this page out, Barry's got several reports regarding bike path data, which I presume are cost estimates for various maintenance activities. So I'm going to set this treasurer's report aside so we can refer to it, because some of the maintenance costs exceed the amount of money we have in the bank if we were to follow them. So I suggest you just hold this page out for easy reference.
I have a question on this.
Yes.
Barry, have we paid any money out of this road improvement fund for the West River Road culvert project yet?
No, sir.
How much more is that going to deplete this month?
As it stands right now, I don't know for sure, but I don't think there's going to be too much come out of the road funds for that project, because it's basically a drainage project.
Yeah, my preference, Frank, at one time we budgeted $40,000, and my preference has always been that we, since it's a drain problem, that we use all drainage funds to improve that.
Good.
Unless somebody saw a problem with that. Okay, we need a motion to approve the acceptance of the treasurer's report.
So move. Second.
Moved and supported that the treasurer's report dated July 2011 be approved as received. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next, Barry, you have the floor. Manager's reports.
Yes, item number 1 on the manager's report is an update on the West River Road drain repair and improvement right there by Westcroft Gardens. The last few days, the contractor has not been working. We installed a new water main under that box culvert before they placed the box culvert in position, so we wouldn't have to do it later on when we replaced the water main on West River. So we added a couple hundred feet of water main in there to serve that purpose. The box culvert has been set. The new box culvert, the inside of the new box culvert is the same as the one that's there, but there's a different OD size, and I know it's not round, but the outer casing of the new structure doesn't match the old, and we knew that was going to be the case before we installed the culverts or before we bid the job. But without excavating down, we didn't know what the difference was going to be. So what's happened right now, when these box culverts are placed in position, there has to be straps prefabricated to strap the old to the new. And like I said, we couldn't do that ahead of time because we didn't know exactly what the dimensions were going to be between the old and the new. So there's been about a 4-day, 5-day delay because we've had to have the straps fabricated. They have to go from the fabrication facility to Wayne County for approval, and then after Wayne County takes a look at them and they're approved, then they go to the galvanizing plant to be galvanized, and that's where they're at right now, and they probably either will be done today or tomorrow, that they can be picked up and installed. But that's been the major part of the delay, is not knowing what these straps are, how they had to be fabricated at the time. They're taking BACT tests on the new piece of 12-inch that they installed. They're going to take a test, I think they're going to flush tomorrow and take a test on Thursday, providing that BACT test comes back okay. They'll be connecting that new line up, and that portion will be done. Once these straps are in place, the only thing that remains is the backfill. And they'll be backfilling the culvert area, and once they get it backfilled, then the new piece of road goes on the top. They don't expect the installation of the surface, the asphalt surface in the road, once they get the base in place, which take a couple days. The asphalt portion of it can be done in 1 day. So we're still on schedule with completion by the end of the month. So, and I talked to Denise from Westcroft Gardens a few days ago, and she indicated to me that she needs to have access to her facility by Labor Day. So I told her that, you know, we'll do everything in our power to make sure that happens, and I don't see a problem with that happening. After these straps are in place, the rest of it is just, it's a mop-up operation, backfill, compact, and put the road down, and we're out of there. So
Barry, on the straps, the Wayne County's approved them?
yes.
Well, that's amazing.
Wayne County's, we've been leaning on them to expedite these because we knew we had a time frame we needed to work with, and we've got some cooperation from them.
So if they're being galvanized, how long do they, is it a one-day project to put those in?
As I understand it, they put the galvanization on it one day, it has to secure for 24 hours, and the next day they can be shipped and installed. So, and we're looking for that to take place either tomorrow or Thursday.
The installation?
Yeah, as far as when they get them done, I think they're going to come out and start installing them so we can get it, backfilled.
Is there a retainer for the base? That don't just flow into the open there. To put when I put the base down on the road, is there a retainer on each side to keep it from eroding?
There'll be a shoulder. Yeah, there's going to be gravel shoulder, I believe, associated with the new pavement. The new pavement is not going to be, it's going to be wider than it was there, but it's not going to be, I don't think it's going to be guardrail to guardrail. There's going to be some shoulder there, I believe.
There is a retainer on the top of the culvert.
Oh, is there? That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah, the concrete portion of the retainer on the culvert itself? Yes.
Yeah, so it forms like a curved structure, so there's no movement of that.
Right, there's wing walls on each side of that box culvert.
I guess from my standpoint, I think it's gone pretty well so far.
It has.
And even the road closure, nobody's complained that I'm aware of.
No.
But I do think that we need to put, Solly wants to get this done, I guess, but we need to keep pushing them to get the asphalt scheduled so we can get it open. You know how these things, you lose weeks. We've lost no work. I understand why, the last 2 weeks, but I appreciate you staying on top of it.
I will do that.
Any questions on that?
Item number 2 is the clarifier painting at the wastewater treatment plant. As you'll recall, at the last commission meeting, I reported that when we bid it the first time, we only received one bid. So we did not open that bid. I contacted the lone bidder and told him I would send his bid back to him, that we were going to rebid it. He said that we could just keep that bid here at Township Hall and open it whenever the bid date was for the next bid letting. The bid date is August the 11th, 3 o'clock. And as it stands right now, we've had 4 companies take out specifications. So we're hoping to get enough bids that we can open them and move forward with this project. And that, again, that's August the 11th at 3 p.m.
Good.
Item number 3 is the recycle container at the DPS for the condos and apartments. If you'll recall at the last meeting, we discussed having a recycle container put at the DPW facility for residents who live in apartment complexes and condo projects to come to the DPS to dispose of their recycled material, because the contractors that they have that contracts that to pick up do not pick up recycle. You asked me to look into the cost involved in this, and Lorinda contacted Waste Management and got some numbers. They have a recycle container that they bring out on a roll-off truck and drop it, and it has compartments in it for different things, plastic, glass, tin, whatever, but it has compartments. And each time they dump that, it's going to cost $450. So, and then we have to have a place to keep it, which we would keep it at the DPW yard, but the cost is $450 whenever they come and empty it out. So it'd be up to the commission to decide whether, we want to move forward with something like this. I still am concerned about being able to police this. We have open-top containers now in the DPW building, and we have to watch those. People will come and throw broken concrete in them and railroad ties and everything else that's not supposed to be placed in them. So that's one of my major concerns, is being able to police it. But other than that, it's the commission on what you want to do.
Any comments from the board?
I got a question, Mr. Chairman. Do Do the residents of these condo complexes pay the recycle charge on their bill?
I don't believe so.
How-
I'd have to look billing and check for sure.
Wouldn't you think that if a condo complex wanted to get involved in recycling, that they would contact Waste Management to have the dumpster placed? I know they have dumpsters in these condo complexes. And handle the service themselves rather than, because I don't know how we're going to bill for that.
I don't either. Yeah, Wally?
Let me follow up on that. Along Ted's line of thinking about how do you pay for it, I'm not sure that we've got enough information to begin with to tell me who wants to have a recycling container. If we have a couple dozen letters from people that say that we would recycle if you had such a container, or are we just basing this upon a person's request that I think this is a good idea?
Well, as I understand it, the request came from Mrs. Frucci, and she said to me that there are people in these complexes that expressed an interest to her that we be able to have some type of a facility for them to deposit their recycle in.
I go back to my point. When we see some interest from individuals that are living in condos that are sending letters to us saying, if you had a recycled container, we would use it, I think that's when we move on it. But just because we think it's a good idea isn't good enough.
Well, for the public's sake, I think one of the issues that we're talking about that we haven't really clarified is that oftentimes, and going back the last 20 years, when communities have set up these recycling bins, all it takes is for somebody to dump their garbage in them, somebody that's going on vacation or someplace, and it's a convenient way to get rid of their garbage. And that, they call that, it contaminates the load, so that when the recycling company comes to take the glass to the glass location or paper to the paper location to be recycled, they won't take it. They'll reject it. And we still have to pay the bill to haul it away. So in the end, it isn't recycled.
It goes into the trash.
And I think that Mr. Posiak's raising a good question. Maybe what we should do is make an announcement today that we've looked at this issue. We don't have any idea how often the roll-off bin would have to be emptied, but perhaps if people out there who are watching, live in apartments or condos, would like to recycle, and you have no other means to do it, then write us a letter. It's the DPS Commission, and our address is 9601 Grow Road, G-R-O-H, Grow Road, Grosse Ile Township. And let the DPS Commission know that you're interested. You and your neighbors would be better even that you're interested. And let's try to get a handle on this. Our refuse collection is very costly. And, one other thought I had about this is, I know if we issued recycling bins to condos, most of the condos don't have, or many of them do not have a garage to put the recycling bin in. So that's not a good answer either if they don't have a place to set it. Those that do have a garage, of course, it would be easy for them to set it out at the curbside and it'd be picked up as long, but that seems cumbersome as well. So is that fair enough for now?
This needs to be quantified.
So just let us know if you're interested, and we'll continue to deal with. Otherwise, can I assume that the Commission's attitude, the matter's on hold?
Well, I would think so. I had another concern, and it was something brought out by Ted Van Oz, and he mentioned the cost involved in the billing. He mentioned the cost involved in the billing, and that's another dimension to this thing. In addition to that, you always, in these instances, if we had the roll-off and we had it supervised and there railroad ties in it, you would still have a problem that may be referred to casually as the Chicago butcher's thumb on the meat scale. So unless we're counting the roll-offs when they're going out, which township never could, then you'd have to trust the vendor for the final count. Now, that presents another problem, and there may be other situations where the butcher's thumb also applies. So that's enough said on that.
In this particular instance, it would probably only be one container of bins, and they, in this case, Waste Management's our contractor. They told us we would have to tell them when it's ready to be emptied, and then, so we call them and say, look, it's full, you've got to come and get it. So
That's the first half of the butcher's problem. The second half is then somebody, from an accounting standpoint, would have to keep track of those roll-off pickups, because at the end of the year, if you wound up paying $10,000 for roll-offs, then you'd have to be sure that you got the appropriate number of roll-offs removed. That's the other part of the equation. That's the more difficult one to count and control.
Okay, thank you. If there's no further discussion on this, then I assume we're going to see if we hear from the general public on it. If you have any questions, you can contact the Department of Public Services office at Township Hall about this issue.
Sure, and if any resident out there has any questions that they'd like addressed to me, they can just reach me at the township number 676-4422. I'm at extension 229. If I'm not available, they can talk to Lorinda at extension 228, and we'd be more than happy to answer any questions that they may have.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Item number 4 on the manager's report, there's a household hazardous waste and electronic waste collection coming up Saturday, August the 27th. It's going to be held at the Southland Shopping Center parking lot, and that's at 23,000 Eureka Road in Taylor. And like I said, it's a household hazardous waste collection. They will only take hazardous waste that's generated by a resident. They won't take any commercial waste or business waste of any kind. It has to be household. This is posted on the website. I'll just run down a few of the items that are acceptable. They'll take household paint, stains and dyes, floor wax, floor care products, carpet cleaner, furniture polish, bathroom cleaners, stain removers, solvents. They will take pharmaceutical waste as long as it's non-controlled substance only. Nail polish, glue, fertilizer, lawn and garden chemicals, pesticides, antifreeze, motor oil, gasoline, automotive batteries and dry cell batteries, fluorescent tubes of all types, fire extinguishers, smoke detectors, mercury thermometers, thermostats, and elemental mercury. The electronics portion, it'll take computer CPUs, monitors, printers, scanners, keyboards, mice, cell phones, fax machines, copiers, and TVs. That pretty much is the list. Like I said, it's posted on the website, and we have this notice posted in various locations around the township. The item number 5 is an electronic waste collection, and this one's being held by Wayne County. The first one is going to be October the 1st, held at Henry Ford Centennial Library on Michigan Avenue in Dearborn. And there again, it's electronics. They'll take any type of electronics. Some of the things, in addition that I just mentioned, they'll take microwave ovens, Christmas lights, game consoles, handheld electronic devices, computer parts, and miscellaneous cables. Other than that, they accept just about everything that's the other with Item number 6 on the manager's report is a bike path update. And as you recall at the last meeting, we discussed signage along the bike path in the areas that some of them were displaced, missing, weren't in at all. And so I decided that this would be a good time to take a look at the bike path's condition and report back to the commission, because it was in my mind this year that what we probably should do at minimum is probably seal coat the bike paths. Those haven't been done in quite a few years. So I got with our consulting engineers, and I had them take a survey of the bike path and the condition. And in your packet, starting on page 35 basically is a summary sheet of the others. And you'll see on there that, and I'm going to display some pictures here in a minute so you can see what some of the areas look like that they took pictures of. But you'll see some removal and replace of a bike path that's in deteriorating condition. There's miscellaneous pavement markings, there's crack fillers, overband, seal coat, and then miscellaneous sign types, and then restoration and cleanup. And that total package amounts to $387,000 if we do everything that's on this list. At this time, I'm just going to take up some pictures and kind of display them. And then I'll take these with me too so you can ask me some questions if you want. This is what some of the area in the bike path is beginning to look like. We're getting grass that's grown up in the cracks. And these are just additional cracks in the path. I'm going to pull a few of them out here. That shows the sod growing up through them. This is one of just some deteriorated...
Barry, before you leave it, do you have any idea where that is, this one?
No, I don't exactly. I got the list.
The engineers took the picture?
The list is in my in the packet, actually, of all of the areas that
I saw that, but I wondered where this picture was taken.
don't exactly know.
Okay.
Some more deterioration. Here's an area that we're getting a lot of this area, like right in here around the edges, close to the edge of the bike path. That happened to be a stump right there that was cut off, but not before it grew up into the bike path area. Here is a picture taken looking at the bridge. I believe that's on Meridian, by the Meridian Elementary School. Mm-hmm. That wood bridge, you can see the crack running along the edge.
Barry, wasn't that the bike path that was just replaced a couple of years ago?
That was, yeah, I think put a cap on that the last time, didn't they? Yeah. And that was one of the issues, remember, it was brought up before about when we did this, it didn't take long for these cracks to start showing up in the new asphalt. And there's no way that you can put a new surface on here without this existing crack eventually coming up through the new. And that was the reason that the engineering, or Charles Rings Company, put this list together of the areas that needed to be replaced, because they used total replacement. In other words, not a cap this time, but total replacement. And it reflects some of the costs involved. This is happening in some areas. You can see the alligatoring of the deterioration. And here's another one where the bike path makes a turn, and you can see that it's deteriorating pretty good. But these are just a few pictures that I have. We have others at the office. Someone wants to take a further look at them. I can email them to you if you want to see them. We have them by email. But basically, you can see by this page 35, that's kind of how the items are broken down. And I'm thinking that what we should at least do, or at least what I intended to do, was probably just seal coat the bike paths at a minimum this year. And then if you wanted to get into some maintenance, we could possibly do that next summer. But it's up to the commission on how you want to. The signage, you'll see that the signage portion of it probably is going to run about $5,000 if we put signage up, the stop signs that are missing, because I think, if I understood the commission correctly, we wanted signs on all of them. And some of them, I don't believe at one time they never had any signs on all of them at one time. We could replace the ones that are broken. We can add the ones that we don't have. And depending on how extensive you want to go, there's even signage out there that we can put on the bike path that indicates an approaching curve. They have those for bike paths. They have bike paths, they have signs that indicate the end of the bike path coming. So it depends on, if you just want to go with the stop signs and the crosswalks, that would probably be the way to go. But it's all right here, so if you have any questions, just get a hold of me or call Rains.
Question. You were commenting about seal coating the bike path. Would that include crack sealing all of these cracks? And
No, there's two separate amounts here. One would be for the seal coating, and then there's a cost factor there for what they call overband, and that would be a banded material that went over some of the larger cracks, like similar to the crack sealing we do on the roads.
how many of these areas do we have that have grass growing through it? And could that be removed, overbanded before the crack sealing?
The ones that have the grass growing through them, obviously, yeah, you have to remove the grass, but then depending on the size of the crack, if you wanted to overband it, you'd have to clean that crack out and then put the overband material over the crack. And then probably seal coat the whole thing. You'd want to do that first.
Now that eliminates the re-cracking of the surface?
Well, basically what it does, Gordon, is it keeps the water from getting down into the crack over the seasons with the thawing and the melting, and it probably prevents or helps prevent further deterioration of the bike path, is what it would be. It's the same thing that we do when we overband or crack seal the roads. It's a preventive maintenance type thing to keep the water from getting under the road.
Well, you're saying that they're apt to crack if they're resurfaced, but by doing it the way you just said, that eliminates that or makes it last longer.
Yes, the alternative to going in there and grinding a portion of it off and just putting a thin layer on, like 1 inch or 2 inches of asphalt, that is what we did the last time, and we got complaints about it. It hasn't been 6 months and the cracks are reappearing, and that's what happens when you put a couple inches of asphalt over an existing crack. It's going to come through.
That's even one that's been cleaned out?
Yes, it's going to. Eventually, that crack that's in the bike path itself is going to make its way through into the new asphalt, and that was the reason that this cost estimate was put together based on replacing the bike path to its full depth. I think it's 5 inches.
If Rains says we have only 300 lineal feet of crack filling and overbanding, that costs less than 0.2% for the total estimate, and probably will pay for itself many times over. Mm-hmm. And we should do that before we do any seal coating.
Right. Yeah, if you're going to do the overband, do it before you put the seal down.
It's just cheap insurance.
It sure is.
Are there other questions from the board?
When I look at this cost estimate, Rains Company did this,
Yes.
so if I read number 2, that would be $2,520. That would be to restripe the roads where the bike path crosses them. Is that what that is?
This would probably be in areas, yes, where we would put pavement markings in place of signage. Typical example on a...
Like Four Corners?
Yes,
and
Macomb Street.
Macomb Street.
And I think
So that's less than $3,000. If I read this, I think the decimal points are right. So it's $2,500.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the other thing is, some of the other men up here may be familiar with certain areas of the bike path. I'm fairly familiar with Grow Road up to Bridge Road. and past it, and there isn't a lot of crack damage in those areas. There's one place where one of those caissons or chasms was dug for the SSES project, and there's some cracking there when that excavation settled. But in riding up and down that area, there's not much other than some withered pavement areas that could be easily sealed. There is one place, it's north of Highland, and what that has is a constant drainage problem. So the bike path dips a little bit, so it's wet probably 50% of the time or more, even if it's not raining heavily.
There's a lake there now.
So if somehow, and that's only a limited area, it's maybe a couple of spots that are less than 20 feet long. If a little engineering could be done there, I assume there's some capability of draining underneath the bike path or whatever it is, that would eliminate those spots. And the reason why that's important, if the mother and father and 3 kids, everybody's all dressed up, it's Sunday, and they have good casual clothes on, and they bike up the bike path and it's wet. By the time they get through that area, they have a stripe down each one of their backs. They kind of look like raccoons, and maybe it's kind of cute if it's a Tuesday and the boys aren't dressed up yet, but on a Sunday it's bad, and if the women are dressed up, it's even worse because they don't want to ruin a blouse, and they have to change again that day, as do the 3 children. So I don't think that would cost very much, and Raines can probably locate it fairly easily with a water test. When you see the water, that's where it is.
That's north of Highland.
I think it's north of Highland. It's
Yeah.
very close to where the old youth center used to be. Very close to
And
that.
part of that was resurfaced before, and the bike path was good, except it was low. And I think
Right.
the part he's talking about is pretty good bike path, but it's low.
But it's a great bike path
Yeah.
area.
That's
But it's
north of
always
Highland.
wet, or not always, I'd say,
Yeah.
more than 50% of the time, maybe more than 70% of the time.
And that's north of Highland? on
Yeah.
Meridian?
Yeah.
We'll take a look at it.
Okay, I have a couple questions, Barry. Page 36. Page 36 shows that for the seal coating, the cost is $34,000. And yet on page 35, the prior page, it shows the seal coating cost at 19. So obviously, there's something different there.
It's in the square footage.
There's a lot more square footage, you're right.
There's a lot more square footage.
So
and I-
I guess the question is, if we're going to seal coat, are we seal coating the whole thing? This says seal coat run-out surfaces and bad sections. I mean, are we talking the entire, we're not talking all of our bike paths. I don't know the answer. Is that? is the
I
34
think we took the survey on all of the bike path, except the new piece that goes back by the soccer field.
So assuming that, it's on the older sections, because it does say overworn out surfaces and bad sections, 28,000 square feet. I mean, if we're going to start to do some of the paths and take corrective action with seal coating, we haven't done it in years, we probably want to seal coat everything, right?
Yes, that would be what I would do.
And if we don't approve it tonight, which is August, you're never going to get it done this year. The question, our second question is, can you get seal coating done yet this year if
Yes.
we authorize it?
And I don't even think, if you didn't do it at this meeting, you could still get it done.
Well, I don't think we want to seal coat during the cold weather, do we?
No. Let's do it now.
And then, of course, obviously, it'd be better to seal coat once school starts, at least. And then how do you keep people off of it when you seal coat?
If you want to go with the overband crack sealing and then the seal coating, if you wanted to, we could authorize the engineer to put up, to prepare a bid spec and go out for bids. And they bid that stuff based on square footage. So then the commission could take a closer look if they would like and determine if you want to do it all or you only want to do a portion of it. It's based on per square foot.
What's the contingency 10%?
That's the estimate can vary
Either way.
10%, plus or minus.
John whispered in my ear. John, why don't you make a suggestion?
Well, I was going to suggest items 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 are fairly insignificant when you look at the amount of money that has already been collected for maintenance. And why don't we move to do those things, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6? That's the $2,500 for striping, $600 for crack filler, seal coats $19,000, signage is $3,800, and restoration they have $5,000. Might not be that much. I think the restoration includes some other things.
But the seal coating is not that figure, is it? If you're talking about the whole bike path.
That's right. So I guess I would, my feeling on it is, since that's all the data we have, I would propose if we're going to do the seal coating, let's authorize the larger amount. The same with the crack filling and overbanding. This front page 35 shows 300 square feet, and on page 36 it shows 600 square feet. I think 600 is probably more reasonable. So let's
Mr. Chair,
yeah, go ahead.
it's linear feet, square feet.
On the crack cell.
On the banding.
Okay, linear feet. Sorry. Okay.
I think all we'd have to do is, at this particular time, is pick out the bid items that we want, like the seal coating if you want it, and the overband, and we would bid it as based on quantity and lineal feet of the overband and square footage of the crack of the seal coating.
All right. So then,
Everybody's got page 35.
yeah.
And everybody's got the numbers on the left-hand side, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, fairly straightforward. They're an insignificant amount of money in respect to the overall amount collected. So why don't we take care of those, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6?
Mr. Supervisor?
You have to do away with 4.
Did you call me?
Well, you're close. You're my supervisor. I would suggest, if we're going to follow John's logic, to pick items 1 and 2 off of page 36, and then pick items 2, 4, and 6 off of page 35. That would encompass the entire bike path, if I understand Barry correctly.
You know what, I think,
No.
Ted, I think you're thinking along the lines I am, but page, I don't have it, page 36.
It's the back of 35.
Page 36 is the larger quantity. And it
Yeah, well, it's the
includes-
whole bike path.
And it includes, but it's not repaving the whole bike path. The seal coating is $34,003. The crack filler is $1,200. And then the pavement marking is on page 37. That's 1. And signage is 2, 3, and 4 on page 37. So we're talking about signage, seal coating, and crack filler. The crack filler is only $600 on the first page. And the crack fill on the second page is $1,200. So talking about stuff like that.
But you're talking twice as much.
Well, we're going to authorize the larger amount is what.
Well, yeah, authorize the larger amount. Instead of $600, authorize $1,200.
Right.
Yeah.
And instead of 19,000 for seal coating,
It's
authorize the 34,000.
Sure.
Okay.
And then the other stuff stays the same. The striping stays the same, and I think the signage stays the same, I believe it does.
Well, John, if you look at page 37, even the striping is a bit confusing because item number 1 on page 37 is the $2,520 that's reflected on item number 2 on page 35. So I guess we have to make a decision. I look at this as miscellaneous pavement marking is what item number 1 on page 37 calls for. That's what we decided to do is the pavement marking as opposed to signs, correct?
Only in
I think both.
Both.
Yeah.
Replace the signs that are missing. We're not adding new stuff that says there's a curve ahead or like that signs. The stop signs are the important
We
thing.
need to add stop signs where there are none.
Okay, very good.
And that's fine too.
So we'll do, on page 37, we'll do items 1, 2, and 3, but not 4. That's the curves. We don't need curves.
Okay, on page 37, for explanation, items 2, 3, and 4 are basically item 5 on page 35. Items 2, 3, and 4 on page 37
All right.
are basically item number 5 on page 35.
Well,
I don't think so.
that, on 36, item 1 is not the whole bike path, is it?
Yes, it is.
It says seal coat over worn-out surfaces and bad sections.
On page 36, it says seal coat entire path, including the bad sections.
Yeah, at the top heading, Gordy, in the gray shaded area,
I see.
okay?
Okay.
All right, so on the pavement marking,
So
we're just going to do everything except the curves, is that correct? Which is item number 4.
So we're doing away with item number 4
On page 37, on page 37.
How about 35?
Okay, here's what we're going to do. On page 35, we're going to do nothing. I don't know.
Refer to another page.
We're going to do on page 36, we're going to do items 1 and 2 as Ted suggested, which is the complete seal coating of the entire path and crack filling and overbanding. Right, Ted?
Yes.
That's page 36. And then we're going to do,
37.
on page 37, we're going to do everything but item number 4.
Right.
Does that cover it? I think it does.
I think it does.
All right, now, on page 35, we're going to take out item 4 because it's included on 36, right?
Correct.
Well, we're not
Correct.
even going to talk about page 35.
We're off.
We're off the charts on 35. We're just on 36 and 37.
So we're doing away with that whole page.
Yep.
We're going to do complete seal coating and crack filling, Gordy,
Yeah.
as needed, and then do the signage this year.
And the painting of the road.
The-
The waterborne paving part.
Right.
So,
So we're talking about basically about a $45,000 package.
the areas that have the sod and the grass in it are not going to get touched?
No,
41 grand.
we will take the sod off.
Rebid that?
No, they're going to take the side.
We take the sod that's going up through the path, that's cut off first, and then if we can clean the joint, we'll put overband over it if it's wide, and then seal coat it.
So that's a more,
Unless you're doing excavation.
Gives us a little flexibility. Okay, so we have about a $45,000 project. This is what we're authorizing. You have it straight now, I think?
Yeah.
So the motion is to approve items 1 and 2 on page 36, and items 1, 2, and 3 on page 37.
Mr. Chair, I suggest that we put this in the form of a motion to seek bids. I don't know that we have
Yes.
to go back to the board for that. We'll probably have to go back to the board for the award of the bids.
Yes, yes.
But that's the way I would suggest that it's seek
Very
bids
good.
for those items.
So the motion would be to authorize the seeking of bids for those items that I mentioned. And is that your motion, Mr. Vanaz?
Yes, that's good.
Is there support?
Yes.
It's been moved and supported that we recommend that we seek bids before our next meeting. How's that?
That's good.
And talk to contractors as well to see if they can do the work before October 1st.
Yeah, I don't,
Pre-qualify them in that sense. For items 1 and 2 on page 36 of the range report, items 1, 2, and 3 on page 37, total of approximately $45,000 worth of maintenance, seal coating, repair, and striping, new signs where they don't exist, on our existing bike pass system. And the monies would come from our maintenance fund, which at the current time totals approximately $400,000, $390,000.
that's correct.
So we'd be taking roughly 12 or 13% from that. We have a motion and a support. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous.
Yeah, which page? What about, nobody said anything about page 39.
Frank, you want me to
Yeah, like
really
page 39.
go through that?
No.
Good discussion, but I do have one other question related to bike paths. We've been talking about a bike path, about two issues with bike paths. One is the bike path on Horse Mill. What's the status of that?
The last meeting of the subcommittee, I believe, I know it was held when I was on vacation, and I never did get a follow-up report from Mr. Ranka regarding what took place at that meeting, so I really don't know the disposition of that particular bike path.
And I suppose, by same token, there was some discussion 3 or 4 months ago regarding taking the bike path responsibility and giving it to some new group. Has anything done on that? I mean, I think we're perfectly happy to keep it.
Yeah, not that I know of. I do know, as a follow-up, what I do know about the Horse Mill Bike Path is it was in the final stages of Wayne County approval when I last was given an update. So as far as I know, it could be, right now, it could be almost ready to bid if they chose to go out for bids for it.
Frank, you had a quick question? Okay. Okay, Barry, that's it on that. All right. Mr. Dornbush, I assume you don't mind sitting here for this?
Paying close attention.
Okay, very good.
Did you want to do any crack filling?
No. I'll pass on that.
You've become an expert at it.
Recovered, yeah.
Discussion items, are there any discussion items for the good of the order? If there are none, the action items, Wally? Barry. Do you want me to run, you start out with the water and sewer, and I'd like to go over Ann's report.
Okay. The first action item is the water and sewer rates increase for 2011-2012. The motion reads, motion to recommend to the Township Board to authorize adjustment to the water and sewer rates of 12.48% based on the Platte Moran Capital Improvement Schedule effective August the 1st, 2011. As a little history, the increase imposed on us by the City of Detroit was 11.2% over last year. The water and sewer rates are adjusted to reflect this increase. Our water rates also reflect a moderately aggressive capital improvements program, which replaces portions of our aging water infrastructure. And we still have water mains in use today that date back into the 1930s that need to be upgraded as when we can see our way clear to do it. Basically, that's it.
Before we move on and discuss the report we received from our Township Finance Director, I'd like to just say, ask Barry to comment on two things. In the last month, I think that's correct, we've had a major sewer failure on the island on West River Road, and the need to replace a very old water main crossing in the vicinity of Lakewood on Meridian. And Barry, would you explain? I mean, people need to understand that our utility system does experience these problems. That's why we have an aggressive capital plan.
Yeah, starting with the water main replacement on Meridian, we had a sinkhole developed in Meridian Road, and it was going to require some major road work to repair it. And it was right over the top of where the water main crosses at Lakewood. So I decided to, before we went to the expense of putting the road back, that we need to go in there and replace that old piece of water main. It was a piece of old 6-inch cast iron. When we removed it, it probably had, just in the length from one side of the road to the other, it probably had a half dozen repair clamps on that particular piece. So we removed it, we replaced it with a 12-inch line. We added a new valve on the one side of the road, and the reason we replaced it with 12-inch is because as improvements do take place in our water system on Meridian Road, we won't have to disturb this piece that we've just replaced. We'll be able to hook to each end of it as needed and go on with the installation at hand. So this hopefully cured a problem that we had, one with the sinkhole, and we eliminated a piece of old water main that it looked like when we took it out that it was leaking. So that was the
And
water.
I saw the water main that we pulled out in West River Road near Westcroft Gardens, and the buildup of minerals, which is called tuberculation, on the inside of the pipe probably reduced the capacity of that 6-inch pipe by 30%.
Yes.
So at any rate, then on the sewer break, this was near,
The sewer break was right at, on West River Road near the ramp at Parkway. We had, during the heavy rainstorm we had here a couple weeks ago, we had a sewer backup on West River from that particular point south. We got jet trucks over to jet. Ours wasn't large enough to dislodge the blockage, so we got a larger truck in here. We jetted it. We got it opened up so it would drain. We got a camera crew in here the next day, and they TV'd the line and determined that it had a chunk of concrete lodged in it. And so the following day, we dug it up and repaired it. And we took out a piece of 12-inch concrete pipe that part of the pipe itself had broken from the top and lodged in the flow line of the pipe. And it looked like it had been there for quite some time, but it got in the position this time with the heavy rains and probably the buildup of solids, it actually caused a backup. So we replaced a portion, we replaced about 12 feet of sewer into the manhole. We added 2 pieces of pipe, and we run it right into the existing manhole, so that portion's been repaired.
and each of these repairs is, you're talking several $1,000s in each case.
Yes, these repairs are expensive.
Okay, so as far as the rate increase is concerned, I asked Barry and Lorinda to distribute this document that you have in front of you, sewer and water. I'll go through it real quickly. Do you have a copy of it, Mr. Dornbush? There is an extra copy for, the first page is a pie chart. I'm going to go through this quickly, because shout out if you need to. The first page, pie chart's revenues. It shows revenues for, in the budget this year, for water, sewer, refuse, and miscellaneous interest. The total budget for the DPS, those responsibilities of ours, is $4,876,000. By the same token, public works expenditures are shown for our water system, refuse collection, treatment plant, and the sewer system of $5,587,000. Water expenditure breakdown is the next pie chart. It shows water expenditures of $2,006,000, total water revenue of $2,006,000, actually about $50,000 apart. And then she's broken down where the...
For 2011 only, or year 2012?
It's for 2011 to 12. The fiscal year ends March 31st of each year.
March 31st, 2011, so...
2012. Okay. The next pie chart is total water expenditures at $2,666,000, total water revenue of $2,611,000, and Ann is chosen to show how we purchase water from Detroit in the red, which is 35% of our costs, our operations at 27%, 13% allocated to capital, and 25% allocated to debt. So you could really assume that the 25 and the 13 added to 38% goes towards construction and debt. Same thing. Then the next pie chart is the sewer expenditure breakdown of $2,131,000, total sewer revenue of $1,593,000. This includes our operation of our sewage treatment plant. And again, the pie chart breaks down our plant operations of our wastewater plant at 30% of our cost, sewer operations of $810,000, 39%, capital projects and debt together about 31% of our expenditures. The next sheet is a lot of facts and figures dealing with the history of our Grosse Ile, Detroit water and Grosse Ile billing rate history. Goes all the way back to 1976-77 fiscal year. It shows you the history of increases from Detroit and what we did with rates. And then I would call your attention, there were a number of years when there were no increases, and that was about 10, 15 years ago. The next chart is a graphic display that shows on the top line, the blue line, what Detroit water increases were. But over the years since 1992, what the Grosse Ile water increases were, which are about $1.25 below Detroit's. If you if you draw the graph out, what our sewer increases are and the gross yield total increases. It's just a graphic display of what's going on. The next page is a chart that shows graphically, again, over 20 years, the Detroit water rate increase compared to gross yields. And you'll see that for many years, recently, Detroit's has been significantly higher than ours. It's been up and down over the years. And I'd like you to flip 2 pages. Actually, the most important page is a lot of figures here. The 3rd page in from the back, which shows the water bill and what would happen to it. This displays the current water bill, which includes water maintenance and consumption, sewer maintenance and consumption, our refuse collection, recycling, and yard waste portion of the bill, and what the current rate is and what it would be after the increase. The notes are that this is for an average household on the island, which uses between 25,000 to 30,000 gallons of water per quarter. And as you know, the sewer is based on water consumption. The average increase per household is $27.25 a quarter, or 7.66%. Now, again, that's based on the total water bill and sewer bill. This would generate an additional $212,000 for water, and sewer additional $140,000. That's the information we have. I would ask, the way that the motion is written or prepared, that we, Barry's motion at least, the data that he had, and I think he's basing it on the consumption portion alone, but and that's what your motion, I think, reads, is that the consumption portion would be adjusted by 12.48%.
Yes. If you'd like to change that, you can.
Well, it's okay, but that, we need to clarify it in our recommendation to the Township Board. We don't want to create any problems where they aren't. The bill's not going to go up 12.48% in total, just the consumption portion is. But what Ann's report indicates that the bill's going to go up 7.6%.
Yes.
So I'd be happy to try to answer any questions if you have, whatever questions you might have. Other questions?
You know, I'd like to make a comment. This capital improvement program that was established by Platt Moran up until the direction of this litigation was considerably heavier. We had probably an additional $12 to $14 million projected in capital improvement. We geared back on all of those except for 2 big capital improvement plan projects. One was a water main on East River. The other one was water main replacement on Balmoral, which was approximately $3 million for the 2 projects. We've taken the rest off, not knowing what the final outcome of the litigation was going to be. Well, obviously now we know what the outcome of the litigation is going to be. But it should be known that the capital improvement plan, the Platt Moran capital improvement plan that we're based this on, is the revised capital improvement plan that we revised earlier this year. Because initially on the old capital improvement plan, these rate increases would be in the vicinity of 15 and 25%. We've rolled that all back. We've just pulled all of that off the table, and we'll review it again in the future. We've got a number of issues that we're dealing with, which are huge expenditures. We've got a couple of avenues that we're trying to explore. So this is an extremely accurate capital improvement plan moving forward. The 12.48 will address the shortfalls, as you can see in your pie charts and your schedules, and this is available at Township Hall if anybody wants it. We have to address these shortfalls. This will address those shortfalls in both water and sewer. And this is the minimum that we can do and keep operating in the black without having to go into borrowed funds which, as you know, at this point in time, we don't have a lot of those left, so just by matter of explanation.
Well, thank you, that's very important to highlight that. Are there other comments? All right, if not, I would recommend that we entertain a motion to approve the water and sewer rate increases for an overall rate increase based on the consumption portion. And I'm going to say it this way so that we carry forward to the board the correct one, and we check it with Ann, based on the consumption portion of 12.48%, but based on the total water sewer bill, for the water and sewer portion of the bill, 7.66% per quarter, based on the average household usage of 25,000 gallons.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Moved and supported that the water sewer rate increases, as outlined and discussed tonight, move forward as recommended. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. The motion is approved. And Ted, it would be my hope that, and Barry intends to, that this report will go with our recommendation.
All right. Ann will make a presentation at the board meeting.
Right. Okay, the next item is the roads millage ballot language. Barry?
Yes. It's a motion to recommend to the Township Board to authorize road millage ballot language as follows. Shall Groseville Township impose an increase of up to .4 mils, that's 40 cents per thousand of taxable value, in the total tax limitation imposed under Article 9, Section 6 of the Michigan Constitution, and levy it for a period of 10 years, from 2011 through 2020 inclusive, to provide funds for the maintenance to roads within the township, which .4 mils increase will raise an estimated $225,000 in the first year the millage is levied.
I'll make that motion.
It's been moved and supported that a motion to recommend to the Township Board that on the November 2011 ballot, that this proposition is just read to you for 0.4 of a mil increase for road maintenance be on the ballot. Discussion. We've discussed this issue a lot. I don't see anybody raising their hand. This has been a topic of discussion, and we keep saying that we're almost out of road monies for maintenance, and we feel this is very important and it's minimal. This money would be used for our annual snow and ice supplement to Wayne County, for roadside mowing supplement, for dust control, and if this is approved, we'd have about $75,000 to $90,000 a year to put into crack and joint repair, pothole filling, in addition to what Wayne County does. If there's no further discussion,
Mr. Chair,
Mr.
I
Posiak.
think it's very important to make sure that people understand that this millage is a new millage, and if we do not pass this millage, there will be no funds for roadside mowing, snow plowing, dust control, and minor repairs. And the 0.4 of a mil was the studied work by a group of people that believe that this is absolute minimum.
Thank you for that additional clarification. Okay, we're ready to vote?
And that's 5 years,
10 years.
10 years?
Okay, if there's no further comment, questions from the floor on this, we'll, other questions?
But,
If you have a question, you need to come up to the front. I didn't want to exclude you from this last opportunity. Okay. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign. The motion is passed. Okay, moving on with our agenda. Next is public comment. Mr. Dornbush, you've sat through this whole meeting. You have anything you wish to address us on?
okay, perhaps. Charles Dornbush, 9948 Hawthorne Glen Drive. Has there been anything new on the proposed possible water plant or contract?
You want to address that? All I can tell you is that Trenton's pretty much out of the picture right now because of their commitment to the city of Detroit. They won't let them out of the contract. So the three-community issue is probably on the back burner. We're still awaiting the city of Detroit Water Department to give us some clarification on whether or not our usage factor will include or will not include the fixed costs that they're now implementing, which will then determine whether we can even afford to put a water tower in at a self-return, something that would return itself in a reasonable amount of time. And I'll let the chairman talk to you about some discussions we had with Wyandotte.
Well, we just recently, in the last 6 weeks, opened up discussions with Wyandotte, and so that is just at the beginning stage. In fact, we haven't even authorized, had a discussion with the Township Board yet, or the city councils in Trenton and Riverview, about authorizing an engineering study to look at that as an option, which I personally believe might be the cheaper option for us. But as Mr. Van Oz said, that we're not in a hurry, because time is on our side. The couple issues I see is our contract doesn't expire for 3 more years. Riverview's expires 4 more years, and then Trenton until 2019. Detroit is, they're not going to be able to shut the water off to us. It's important that we move in some direction at some point, but my own perspective is the city of Detroit's in such a state of flux. A lot of people still in charge are from the Kwame-Kilpatrick administration, and there's some changes going on there, but it's even gotten, I think that Ted would support this, we thought we had some answers on directions, for example, saying if you build a water tank storage on your island, you get a 30% reduction in your wholesale rate. That's off the table now. At least we don't know what that is.
Okay.
And other communities are being told, given mixed signals. So trying to deal with Detroit on anything and projecting their costs is very difficult right now. Everybody out of the city of Detroit, the county drain commissioners in Oakland and Wayne, Macomb County, all feel like things are in a state of flux as far as their relationships, trying to get information that's concrete. So something's got to be done about the way that whole system is run so that you can get an answer and know that it's credible if you're going to make a plan around it. So I think that there are a lot of imponderables to try to deal with this right now. So we thought we were in a hurry once. I don't think that's our attitude now. Is that a fair characterization?
Okay. All right, then another question I had. I don't know, you fellas also have the awesome responsibility of the new path. I haven't been down Manchester lately. Has that been complete?
The sidewalk,
Yes.
that small section because
Right.
of the, that's done, yeah.
It is done. Okay, good. Well, if the board approves the answer is probably in here, but if the board approves the increase in the water rate, how much actual capital will that bring in to repair or make the modifications you may or may not do next year?
Well, I don't think I think what we've essentially done is put all our future projects on hold for next year so we don't incur any additional costs. Is that correct?
That will bring in enough. That will bring in enough capital to handle the $6 million bond that we were authorized to go out for, which would include $3 million on the 2 water mains. But at this point in time, because of the litigation that just terminated and the debt we're going to deal with on that, we may or may not go out for that bond, because we may have to go out for $7.5 million bond to address this lawsuit. I don't know yet how that's going to play out. I'm meeting with the DEQ tomorrow. We're going to try to find some funding through the state so it has a lesser impact on the community rather than having to go out for a fixed bond that we have to pay over 15 years in addition to what we're already paying in the SRF program. So at this point in time, I'm not even sure we're going to go out for that $6 million bond. I haven't. And we will have to put those two issues. We'll definitely go out for the $3 million of that, which is actually a payback that rebuilds the fund that we have for the sewage treatment plant. But the other two projects, we have a bond limitation amount that you can only go out for so much in a year, and then it starts to, you can go out for more, but it starts to affect your interest rate. We don't want to mess with that. So if we can't get the state to go along with the assistance through the SRF funding program, we may postpone the additional, that other $3 million until a date that it isn't going to affect our bonding rates.
Okay, so work would not be done.
It could not be, it could be delayed. It's got to be done, but it could be delayed. We'll probably go out for the $3 million immediately, and the other 3 will be on hold until we see how we work out with the state. And that answer will be soon, because we need an answer by the 31st of this month so we can put the bond language on the ballot for November, and that has to be done by the 31st of this month. So consequently, this meeting is crucial tomorrow with the state so we can see whether or not they're going to give us funding to move forward with this.
Okay, so we just don't know yet.
Just don't know.
Okay.
Everything is in flux right now, Chuck. Every morning I wake up, it's a new surprise.
Okay. All right. Nothing else, then? Thank you.
Well, thank you for sitting through our meeting. You're welcome to come back anytime. We'll go through the chairman's report. I have no, Barry covered everything. I have no further report this evening. Commissioners' reports. Gordy?
I have a question about the pickup on Eureka at Southland. Is that free?
Yes.
Okay.
John
Not at
Ryan?
this time.
Frank?
Nothing, sir.
Wally? Ted?
I've said enough.
We'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Moved.